It is 7:02 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting of the Saybrook Police Commission to order, and let's begin as usual by rising to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Begin with comments from the public. Ms. Nora Francesco is our timekeeper. Everybody has 3 minutes. You will be given a warning at 2.5 minutes, just so you'll have an opportunity to wrap up in your allotted 3 minutes. Is there anyone who wishes to comment? Sir. Thank you. Would you identify yourself?
I will. I'm relatively new to town. I'm Bob Gary. I live at 446 Main Street. Obviously. I'm not sure why people here or other people in Old Saybrook voted the way they did at the last vote for the commissioners, but I can tell you why I did. I've been coming here for 40 plus years, but living here for less than 2. I voted because I wanted to have change. I voted because I wanted to have more transparency. I didn't vote for people to do nothing. I voted for them to really consider the way things have been running with regard to police chief, other people involved. And I'm entirely in favor of the bylaw suggestions made by the commission. I also would say that I'm a little worried about the comment of the liability issues, because this is not an issue of liability. 40 years in the insurance industry taught me a lot about liability and risk. This is an issue about doing the right things, being transparent, allowing people to know what's going on, and people to comment both positively about good things done here and negatively about things that need to be changed. I completely support the commission and its efforts in changing the bylaws to be more appropriate and more transparent.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Please stand, identify yourself.
Keith Margana, I was still Saybrook. Recently, there was a Roe v. Wade overturned in at the federal level, and so that was a big decision that everybody's not in favor of. That was a group of attorneys making a decision, and here we see that a lot of the people in the United States don't agree with this decision. So the decision regarding the bylaws by an attorney, as well as Carl Fortuna, is just simply an opinion by an attorney, and maybe not a very good one. I mean, they probably aren't at the level of Attorney Wilcox, who just hasn't passed the bar in Connecticut or taken it because you didn't practice here. But your level of experience is probably higher than the level of experience that they have. I know in law school, you come out sometimes as a generalist, so the law background as education is very similar. And I just support the police commission, and I did vote for this police commission because I wanted to see change in the town of Old Saybrook.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, sir, I see a raised hand.
So I'm Scott Dietrich.
It is you.
I made a similar statement at the Board of Selectmen meeting on Tuesday. I feel compelled to not just urge, but to be sure that the Board of Police Commissioners review and take appropriate action this evening. I must assume that each of the commissioners has read the memorandum written by First Selectman Carl Fortuna and the legal opinions provided by Town Council Mike Cronin, as well as Kerma referred attorney James Talberg of Carstens and Talberg LLC. The responsible action taken by the First Selectman Carl Fortuna to ensure that the town be in compliance with, as well as aligned to, state general statutes and our town charter, led to the solicitation of an additional legal opinion from our town insurer, who's called Kerma. Attorney Talberg, referred by Kerma, reviewed numerous documents, correspondence, and the tape coverage of the April 25th meeting. The legal opinion from Carson and Talberg is clear and prescribed I believe that all elected members to any commission have the responsibility to review and align with legal opinions provided by the town, which are subsequently substantiated.
Please, sir, let me ask you, let them speak, please.
So a legal opinion from Carson and Talbot is clear and prescribed. And I believe that all elected members to any commission have a responsibility, and that responsibility is to review and align with legal opinions provided not only by the town, but those that were substantiated by the town's insurer and two other lawyers as well. Members of the police commission cannot egregiously ignore sound legal advice, thus leaving this town liable. Each member's thoughtful and reasoned action are needed to correct this concerning issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the live audience wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am. Please identify yourself and
Eleanor LaPlace, 44th Avenue, Old Saybrook. I am deeply embarrassed to be a citizen of the town of Old Saybrook. And the reason I am deeply embarrassed is we spend more time on the police commission with issues. And it's about time that the parties concerned, the selectmen, the police department, and this board work on common ground issues. There is nothing wrong with having pro and con discussions at a police commission. The Board of Finance, you go to the Board of Finance, they ask if you pro or you're con, and they rotate that. There's no need that. The biggest problem in this town is transparency and accountability. And when it comes to the taxpayer and when it comes to the voter, no matter what we vote, Big Brother says no. And that is the issue facing this town today. There is nothing wrong with being transparent. There's nothing wrong with being accountable. And when the taxpayers and the voters overwhelmingly say, well, I think it was 4-1, no vote, don't buy a vote. When they say 6 million for our police department and it ends up 12 million and we don't even get to vote on that extra 6 million, where is the transparency? Where's the accountability? And that's what this police commission needs. They need to be able to act in a transparent and hold people accountable for their work. Thank you.
anyone else in the live audience wishing to speak? I see a hand in the far back.
Good evening.
I meant them further back,
Okay, go ahead.
but you go first.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Paul Carver, and I'm the chairman of the Board of Finance, but I'm not speaking as the chairman of the Board of Finance. I am going to be addressing myself tonight as a member of the Board of Finance and what I see as concerns. You asked for an opinion from the town council, and he gave you one. You then wanted another opinion, and the selectman's office agreed to let you have another opinion, and we spent thousands of dollars on that opinion. And then you approved the bylaws against those two opinions. And since then, we've been told that not only are the bylaws in contrast to state statutes, but it opens us up to liability. And that's where I come in as a member of the Board of Finance, because a liability on this board could create a townwide liability. And in many ways, if we get into a litigation circumstance, attorneys versus attorneys, this could cost the town a lot of money. So when you are advised by the two attorneys you sought for legal opinion, and they tell you not to do something, and they tell you it opens you up to liability, as a member of the Board of Finance, I would be concerned, because it's the town that's liable. And I don't know what the legal ramifications are, but there's a lot of people that seem to think they're amateur attorneys. But if you're going against your legal opinion, and you do end up in a lawsuit. As a member of the Board of Finance, I would take the position that you don't deserve town representation, that you're on your own, and you should pay for it out of your own pocket. You either follow the legal advice you get and you request, or you're on your own. The town shouldn't assume the liability for you if you're gonna go ahead in a reckless manner. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I have a question. Are we allowed to ask things of other people?
I would prefer not. That would turn us into a free-for-all, and I'd rather keep it just with people making comments, if you will abide that with me.
Okay,
Thank you.
are we allowed to make a second comment?
You will, but let's have the other people who'd like to make a comment first. In the form.
Sir, can I be recognized? I've read the opinions of Attorney Cronin and the opinion of Attorney Tallberg and your rebuttal today, which was up on the town website. And I mean, trying to reduce this to sort of simple matters. It was an overwhelming vote to make a change in the police commission this time. It wasn't even close, okay? And what this indicated was there was a kind of collapse of trust between the people who live in the town and the police department, okay? Now, this is why the change was made. Now, the members of the police commission now are attempting to deal with this situation. Now, you can argue about, you know, the minutiae of it, but I mean, I read these opinions and I have to say, Mr. Wilcox, your rebuttal sounded to me perfectly reasonable. And at the end of the day, changes need to be made. And the people who are now kind of pushing back about this are the very same people that were sort of sat on the sidelines for 10 years and allowed this sort of situation of distrust to develop. And so perhaps, you know, their views need to be treated with a bit of skepticism. Anyway, that's it. Sorry, I didn't identify me. My name is John Ellis. I live at 33 Old Boston Post Road.
Thank you, sir. Barback.
Hi, Dan Welch, 29 Ellis Street. Couple simple comments. I don't believe that, well, I'm going to make a reference. First of all, let me say this. I have a great deal of respect for the police department in this town. Every dealing I've had with them has been respectful, competent, and supportive. So I respect that. On the other hand, I think it's also true that good organizational practices across the board always provide for the fact that there needs to be independent oversight of complaints. Why? In most organizations that I've been part of and around the country, it exists because it builds trust within the organization and outside. Because we know, therefore, that there's a due process in place that people are respected. Now, I respectfully and appreciate the concern about liability that I would heard from the Board of Finance, but I'd also call your attention to a report in the New York Times about some of the drastic things that happened in the American Baptist Church this year. And what did they say? The independent review of what had happened, because complaints about abuse and the like were well, let's just say misrepresented, but the third party organization, the people that did the independent review said, guess what? The highest level of the organization and outside counsel were preeminently obsessed with containing information and protecting the organization from liability. Now, I'm not suggesting for a second that we're at that place right now, but that's what good, common sense, independent oversight is about. Building trust. To me, it's a win. It's a win for the department, it's a win for the community, and yeah, it's a backstop. A backstop, most importantly, that nobody ever gets seriously injured, because we're making decisions not about just today, but any unforeseen thing that could happen in the future. And we all know that in organizations in stressful situations, which law enforcement people can be involved in, that stuff can happen. Hopefully it never will, but we ought to have protocols in place that enable there to be good oversight so that trust and that protection exists. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
It's Michael Bender here. Just have a few comments. We have a packed agenda tonight, so I'm going to keep it short here. Just want to echo the comments from before that, in November, 5 commissioners were elected with an overwhelming majority with a mandate towards transparency and oversight. And I commend them for trying to do that and encourage them to do more. In regards to the opinions, whenever I receive an opinion from an expert, I think it's important to read that opinion and make sure that it makes logical sense internally. Most of the opinions we got from Attorney Cronin referenced the civic state statute saying that it was illegal. That statute, the 7-294, section BV, references nothing about a police commission or the police commission's authority. It implies what is required for a police department to adopt policies related to managing complaints. How did you address that in your comments on the posted website today, Mr. Wilcox? So I think it's really important for us to look at those opinions, take them into consideration their whole, make sure they make logical sense as an opinion before we just adopt them and follow them blindly, as terms like somebody was suggesting in here. So I think it's definitely justified to continue seeking further clarification, further guidance in terms of what to do here. And so we have a mandate towards oversight and transparency, and I encourage you to keep going towards that so we can make sure we have good governance in this town here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And a comment in the back, the fourth time is your.
Exercise. I'm on 73 Coulter Street, Saybrook. I was born and raised in New Haven, and I worked for the Postal Service from 1973 to 2006, lugging mail through the streets of New Haven. And what I see here in this police department is what I would call excessive spending on everything. We're not an urban environment. This is not Metropolis. This isn't Chicago, East LA, Detroit, Bridgeport, or Hartford. It's a town of Old Saybrook. But yet here we are, expenditures are over the top. Right out here, this door, this show and tell for this fleet of new tricked out called SUVs. I mean, there's a saying that the crime fits the punishment. In here, the criminal activity should fit the budget. And I can't see how a predominantly white, ever-expanding, middle-aged, elderly population can be creating this much havoc in society that allows us to spend this kind of money.
Sir,
But, you know, the New Haven Police Department is overwhelmed
Sir,
with criminal
let me ask you
activity.
to stop. Let me ask you to stop. I just want to caution you, we do not tolerate racist remarks in here. So,
I'm not making it we're making
Yes, you
you
are.
are. I'm taking years and
You are-
decades of
you are-
urban experience growing up in New Haven.
all right,
You know,
okay, you
I
may
call-
stop,
I
you
call
may
the
stop
spade
or
a
you may
spade.
leave. Your choice. Please sit down. Yes, sir.
excuse me, what exactly racist statement did I make? Could you outline that for me?
Lieutenant, would you please escort the gentleman out?
Hold on.
I'm captain, I'm sorry.
So you can either clear the assembly, you have to clear the whole room, you can't just clear one individual.
We have escorted people out in the past.
We've asked them to leave.
All I'm asking is a clarification of what racist remark I said, sir. That's all. Did I use the
Sir.
N-word? Did I
Sir.
say, I'm
Sir.
taking years of experience in the
Okay,
urban
we're going to clear the
environment.
room and then everybody but you can come back,
The
if that's
media,
what we have to do.
the media is allowed to stay.
The media can stay. I am not going to sit here and have you applaud the virtues of white people to the implication
I
that
didn't
people
say
who aren't white
that.
are
Did I use the
criminals.
word white
I will not
people?
tolerate it.
I didn't use the word white people, sir.
Yes, you did.
I did? Oh, well, you are white, aren't you? I mean, look at your own room here. It speaks for itself, sir.
Clear the room and come back in.
Sir, you are still being disruptive, so I'll ask you one more time to leave.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. Nice people, think twice.
Is that your jacket? No, it's not.
Too small.
Yes, sir.
First, I'll say I'm Ed Accarino from 15 Old Colony Road. And I'd like to preface my short remark by saying all my experiences with the police department have been positive. I think they do a fine job, sometimes under difficult circumstances. Having said that, I know that a lot of money has been expended to pay off lawsuits brought by people against the department. Now, that will happen in any environment, in any town. But that should be on the record here when we're talking about those kind of things of legal fees. I just wonder why, when we get two opinions on this particular subject, who determined who they were gonna ask? I mean, if I wanted an opinion made that agreed with my opinion, I know who I'd ask. So when you tell me you got two legal opinions, I have to look at that kind of skeptical. I'd also say that I think this question that this particular police commission is changing the rules on making changes to their operations. They're changing the rules from what? The last commission that made those previous rules and regulations? So they made rules and regulations. This police commission can't make rules and regulations? It doesn't hold water as far as I'm concerned. And I'm thankful that we're able to express our opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the room? And before we have, oh, yes, sir.
I agree with
Please
that.
identify yourself.
Michael Looney, Green Meadow Road. I agree with every speaker that came except the man in the red shirt. And I want you people on the commission not to be intimidated by Carl Fortuna, Mike Cronin, and the other person he got to say something, because it's not unbiased. Anything Carl Fortuna directs people to do, they do. So keep that in mind and don't relinquish any autonomy that you have. That was the reason you got voted in the first place, and that's what we want to see done. Keep in mind that this department doesn't always operate in the correct procedure. There's a pending lawsuit or a possible lawsuit. Four patrolmen responded, the chief and the first selectman, for a theft of a $35 street sign. Now you tell me that's manpower use and the correct way to handle the situation. That's more than anybody gets for a felony committed with a gun, for Christ's sakes, in this town. So keep in mind, Carl Fortuna enticed the lawyer, town lawyer, we should, by the way, get a firm with not a sole practitioner for a town attorney, because there's so many avenues, or what you call it, to decipher, that one man can't do it. And most municipalities don't use a one sole practitioner for their thing. But keep in mind, and don't relinquish anything, because Carl has to do his job. We have sewers to worry about, and we have the trash collection that's going to hit us in 3 years. It'll cost the town a lot of money if they don't get on the stick now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anyone on the call who wishing to comment?
Yes, we do. We have Colin Heffernan.
Colin? Mr. Everly? Are you there, sir? Unmute.
He should be coming on momentarily. I promoted him and he disappeared.
Who else do we have?
There is no one else. It's one more raise their hands. Let's try it again.
Okay.
Colin.
Can you hear me now?
Mr. Heffernan, are you there?
I am. Can I be heard?
How you can?
Okay. I would just like to offer some words of encouragement to the commissioners here tonight. And I'd like especially the commissioners that were elected this past November. Most of you were elected for a 4-year term. I know that Ms. Manning was elected to fill a vacancy to a 2-year term, but that 4-year term isn't a coincidence. It's a vote of confidence and faith by the public of this town that you're going to continue to work throughout your term on the platform that you ran on. And if you have to adjust the platform you've ran on, or be corrected, or correct course, or make changes, but stay true to that platform. The people of this town who overwhelmingly put you in position for a 4-year term did so without the expectation that you could come in and fix everything that you wanted to overnight or within the first 6 months of your term. That wasn't the ambit that you were given. You have 4 years to work at getting to a solution that is what you promised the people of Old Saybrook that you'd get to. So keep plugging away, keep trying. And if you have to overcome an obstacle or overcome a hurdle, do so. And don't let, a hiccup or a bump in the road be discouraging or take you away from that mission, which is the mission that the people of Old Saybrook overwhelmingly agreed with. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Linda Mahal. I don't have prepared remarks, but I just want to make a few observations. I've read all of the laws, the Connecticut statutes that I can find, the post regulations regarding complaints, the Office of Legislative Research notes regarding the roles of police commissions. I've read the complaint policy of this department, et cetera, and I've read all of the relevant opinions and your rebuttal. And if this police commission were about to do anything illegal, I would be the first to stand up and tell you not to do it, because your credibility, your legitimacy is dependent on, first and foremost, doing things that are within the law. So I am completely confident that the bylaws you've proposed are within the law. Number two, regarding the two opposing attorney opinions. Attorney opinions are paid for opinions by essentially guns for hire, we all know that, and they do not have the force of law. There are two remedies that we, the people, from whom the power of this society derives, the people, two remedies that we have: elections every 2 to 4 years and the judicial courts. And only those two opinions, those are the only two that matter. And the people of this town elected a 5-member majority for very important, very relevant, still relevant reasons. So please continue your work. Do not allow idle threats and legal prolixity to get you to stray from your course, okay? The people want fairness for the department and for the people policed. Finally, we all are aware that we are operating within a context in which 2 attorneys gave their opinions to a chief executive who followed them to the detriment of our entire nation and the legitimacy and the authority of our government, Rudy Giuliani and John Eastman. And thank God, Mike Pence had the sense, as the second in command, the relevant authority, to exercise his autonomous power given to him by the Constitution to defy the opinions of these attorneys and the chief executive. We have separation of powers for a reason. The founders of this country were wise, and the people who wrote the town charter were wise. 30 seconds. Stick to your guns. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we've reached our half hour. With that, let's move on to item 3 on the agenda. I just wanted to clarify the language here. There is not anything recommended by the town's insurance carrier. I have not heard anything from Kerma. I have heard from a lawyer recommended by Kerma, that's Mr. Paul. I'd like to set the stage for the discussion of all of these agenda items with a brief statement. As everyone here knows, at its April meeting, the Police Commission amended 3 of its bylaws and tabled the amendment of a 4th. The tabled amendment would have authorized the Police Commission to receive and exercise its discretion concerning complaints from citizens about some or another aspect of our police department. This would have been separate and apart from the police department's procedure when citizens make a complaint to the department. When I ran the proposed changes by town council, Mr. Cronin, he opined that the bylaw dealing with citizen complaints to the commission was illegal and should not be adopted. He also read the 3 other bylaw change proposals as being of one piece with the citizen complaint bylaw, and therefore he regarded them as illegal also. Because I, as the proponent of all 4 bylaw changes, never had understood or intended the 4 proposals as being interdependent or even interrelated, I was willing to table the citizen complaint bylaw, which the commission did, but saw no reason not to act upon the other 3 bylaws, which in my mind dealt with completely different issues. Those were adopted by votes of 5-2 and 6-1. The second attorney, contacted by First Selectman Fortuna, basically followed Mr. Cronin's approach, leading Mr. Fortuna to instruct the police commission to abandon all 4 of the amendments, the 3 that had been adopted and the 4th, which had been tabled. Although I thoroughly disagree with the analysis by Mr. Cronin and the second attorney, Mr. Talberg, I and my colleagues on the commission wish to cause no anxiety or discomfort to our citizens. We were all elected to serve the entire community and not some subset. I also get it that many of our citizens would find it hard to be comfortable with the summary conclusions of a retired attorney from Pennsylvania, me, when my conclusions disagree with the opinions of 2 members of the Connecticut Bar, Mr. Cronin and Mr. Talbert. Therefore, I intend to go along for the moment with Mr. Fortuna's request/demand and rescind the bylaw amendments. However, I and my Democratic colleagues on the commission remain committed to the objectives we ran on when seeking election. Allow the public to express both satisfaction and dissatisfaction during the public comment portion of our meetings. Encourage members of the commission to seek out information in addition to that provided us by our chief of police. Provide appropriate guidance to our commissioners on how and when to distribute communications they receive from the public. And provide an opportunity in addition to that provided by Chief Sparrow's Standing Order 4.6 for individuals who are reluctant to submit a complaint to the police department or whose complaint is of such a nature that they are doubtful of the department's ability to investigate and resolve the complaint in an unbiased manner. Therefore, we intend to enlist Mr. Cronin's expertise as town council in seeking alternative solutions, which hopefully all can agree are legal. Last, I invite anyone wanting to understand my problem with the legal opinions of Mr. Cronin and Mr. Talberg to visit the Police Commission website, where we have posted my take on the issues. With that, let's proceed to discussion and possible action to rescind the Police Commission correspondence bylaw amendment. I think the motion would have to come from someone who voted in favor. Is there anyone who voted in favor willing to make a motion to rescind the bylaw regarding correspondence?
It doesn't have to come from someone who voted in favor.
All right, thank you for that. Is there anyone willing to make a motion to rescind the amendment dealing with correspondence?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion?
What are you gonna do? Destroy the rest of these things?
I
We
believe,
voted for you to do certain
I
things for
believe there
us,
was 4.
and this is absurd.
This is.
Excuse me, we're now in the public meeting portion. We're not in public comment.
I see.
Thank you.
Great.
Now, was there 2 opinions or 4 opinions? There were 4 opinions. 2 came from the town and 2 came from your direction, correct? I just want to clear that up.
No. There was one opinion from Mr. Cronin.
You know,
I asked him to review the
Right.
bylaws. Mr. Cronin decided that he also wanted to speak with Mr. McHale. I did not ask him to speak with Mr. McHale. I asked Mr. Fortuna if I could have an attorney of my choice to review Mr. Cronin's opinion. Mr. Fortuna went out and obtained Mr. Talberg's opinion without my input on that selection.
or ours, or our input.
Or
I just say. Okay,
Mr. Chairman, just a
we had no
quick
input
point.
whatsoever.
Attorney Talbert came from the insurance company.
no, he was recommended by the insurance company, but he did not, he's not a representative of the insurance company, is my understanding. He's got his own law firm.
Well, I believe the insurance company uses attorneys that have their own law firms. They don't have counsel on staff.
I thought they did, but that doesn't matter one way or the other in my mind.
My concern is that I feel that all of the opinions, I don't care how many there are all people that are on the town payroll, basically. They're solicited by Carl, and of course, I mean, if I wanted to get hired again, I'm gonna say what Carl wants me to say. The question that was put to the insurance company was, are the police commissioners indemnified? We've been threatened with having our personal assets taken, which is absolutely insane. If the zoning commission makes a decision and the town is sued, are the members of the zoning commission liable? I've never even heard of something like this, and it's pretty overwhelming right now from the people in the audience. We had 2 people that felt otherwise. And I mean, I don't feel comfortable rescinding these bylaws. We have no guarantee from Selectman Fortuna that he's going to make Attorney Cronin commit to sitting with us and going through this. He already said in his letter, we spent enough time and money. Well, he spent enough time and money. We as a police commission have not. I think it's pretty clear where I stand. I know I'll be outvoted, I understand that, but I'm not up for being bullied, I'm not up for being threatened.
I just worry if we're going against state statutes, we're supposed to be the police commission. We are supposed to follow the state statutes. And if 2 opinions say that we're violating state statutes, then I'm not comfortable with that. And that's the only issue I have.
And that's the only issue I have. And it's on behalf, not of me, because I'm very comfortable with my position, but I understand a lot of people might not be comfortable with my position.
If we gave it another month, is it not a different deal?
I think we should act now. All that we're doing, if we rescind the correspondence amendment, is restoring the former bylaw, where personnel matters go to the chief of police for processing in accordance with General Order 4.6. Frankly, I don't expect that in the next week, 2 weeks, or even a month, we're going to have a complaint that if it came to this commission would say, oh, we don't want this to be turned over to the department. I think it is highly unlikely that we would receive such a complaint. But I think we should have it in our arsenal if and when that rarity ever does occur. That's where I come from on this. I don't mind turning this over, turning the correspondence one back. Any other discussion? Let's have a roll call vote. Ms. Kaye?
Nay.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Maselli?
Yes.
Ms. Notar Francesco?
Yes.
Ms. Manning?
Yes, reluctantly. but-
And the chair, yes.
Oh, gee.
Next item.
I made a mistake.
Discussion and possible action to rescind the responsibility of commissioners as to inquiries bylaw amendment. Do I have a motion to rescind that amendment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Any discussion?
Yes, isn't this one of the ones that Attorney
Speak up, please.
Isn't this one of the ones Attorney Thalberg suggested was okay to leave as is?
Yes, he did. My recollection is that Chief Sparrow, Mike Cronin, opined that because this inquiry should be read, this bylaw should be read as related to complaints, it should be cast out along with the change to the correspondence bylaw. And he also had a second point. I think it was, I'm sorry, that was another issue. On this one, that was his concern. Ms. Manning.
I do. We have Chief just refresh our memories on what you said. I just don't happen to have the document.
What are you specifically asking?
Well, I have the documents in front of me.
Okay, great.
Says, I'm reading this line, I guess. As with the proposed change for complaints to police commissioners, Attorney Cronin properly analyzed and
I'm sorry.
recommended against the.
I'm looking at Mr. Cronin's,
I
not
thought,
Mr. Talbert's.
I'm sorry, I thought,
That's okay.
Joe
You
said
should
Talbot.
Right, that's what you said.
Yes.
That's what you said, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I am on the correct document.
And it's not about complaints that we're discussing.
No, no, it's inquiries.
I know, it's one whole sentence. Just reading the whole sentence. Says, as with the proposed change for complaints to police commissioners, Attorney Cronin properly analyzed and recommended against adopting proposed changes related to public opinion, police commissioners' correspondence.
Well, let me
and
interrupt.
responsibilities of commissioners.
Chief, let me interrupt because you're not reading from the right part. In the conclusion section, he discusses this at length. He says, as to the last proposed bylaw change regarding responsibilities of commissioners as to inquiries, Town Council of Cronin opined that the change could be implemented if a sentence indicating that, quote, the individual members of the commission are advised that they have no independent authority to speak for or take action on behalf of the commission unless they are specifically authorized to do so by a majority vote of the commission. This language was included in the proposed bylaw change that was presented to and voted on by the Police Commission on April 25, 2022. In so doing, it removes a current provision of the bylaws stating that when concerns are brought to a commissioner's attention regarding department employees, the commission should direct such concerns to the chief of police. While this is somewhat concerning, the requirement to forward all complaints regarding personnel matters will be clearly delineated in other portions of the bylaws and remain in effect pursuant to OSPD General Order 4.6 and the post model policy regarding complaints related to law enforcement personnel, should the police commission take action as recommended above to comport with Attorney Cronin's legal opinion. I read that as saying, given the change that the commission made at Mr. Cronin's suggestion, he doesn't regard this as illegal.
So if he doesn't see that as illegal and we're all dead set on going with these opinions, then why are we even bothering to rescind this one? If that's our stance is that these opinions are gospel, then why are we rescinding this one?
Carol has a question here. Carol has a question.
Carol?
In the Connecticut Examiner article, Mr. Cronin said he feared that one of the bylaws could open the town to potential liability. He said one of the bylaws, and what he was referring to was the one that we just rescinded, police commission correspondence. He did not say responsibilities to inquiries.
I would be inclined to keep that one.
Because there's a lot of opinions, and a lot of confusion and drafts. And because it is your intent to engage Attorney Cronin with this group on these bylaws, it would be my suggestion that we do rescind at this point and dedicate ourselves to having an agenda item with Attorney Cronin, so we are all on the same page.
I would propose that we have agenda items on each of these.
Yes. Yeah. So I would suggest that we do rescind for now, and let's move more forward in more of a close partnership with the attorney than we did last time.
So why was on the last bylaw, that was fine, the opinion was fine, but now this opinion doesn't seem to go the way that everybody else wants it to, now we're gonna still rescind? I
We've been
just don't
asked-
understand the logic. You can't say I want this to be right this time and then not this time. You can't argue that these opinions are what we're gonna go by and then change it.
But I didn't. What I'm suggesting is that we have been asked by the first selectman and suggested by the town's insurance carrier that we rescind all of these. And what I'm saying is that is the action that this commission should take tonight and then retool and work in, come up with a different method of working with Attorney Cronin, so we're not backpedaling again in the future.
Let me tell you the way I look at this. If we rescind the bylaw we adopted and don't go back and adopt the old bylaw, then we are free to do what we want in terms of listening to our constituents and listening to our people in our community.
by default, are we not going back to the old bylaw? If we
We are
rescinded?
not, we don't go back to the old bylaw unless we reenact. Because right, if we rescind this bylaw replaced the old bylaw. We would have to, in my view, we would have to then go back and that's agenda item
It's number 7, right?
number 7.
Agreed.
So I think we can rescind this one, engage Mr. Cronin promptly. Promptly.
And is the Board of Selectmen gonna go along with this? I mean, they have
If
their little,
if they don't, that's on them, not on us.
but are they gonna authorize paying Attorney Cronin?
I have no idea what they're going to do. Needless to say, I've been a little disappointed.
Chairman, there's a statement in the bylaws, our bylaws, that states the commission may from time to time require the services of individuals outside the employ of the town of Old Saybrook. These services include, but are not limited to, consultants, clerks, and legal advisors. The commission may enter into limited contractual agreement to hire some individuals, such individuals. It doesn't say who's going to pay the bill. Police commissioners have no budget whatsoever, but I believe that if the first selectman and the board of selectmen does not approve that we go back to Mr. Cronin, and as Mr. Maselli suggested, work on each of these to make sure that they're legal, then I guess we have to say, we'll go back and enter into some limited agreement, limited contractual agreement to hire somebody. And then I guess, don't worry about the
We're
payment.
anticipating item 14 on the agenda. I know it's a long agenda.
No, I know that. But I just
Discussion
thought
and
I would,
possible action concerning budgeting for police commission consultants.
and it says that we can go on a limited contractual basis. We don't have any money.
Well, if there's no more discussion, why don't we call the question?
Nay.
Mombasa?
I cannot hear what Ms. Kaye said.
Mr. Maselli?
Yes.
No.
Ms. Manning?
Yeah, I'll vote for it, again, with regret, and with the hope that we will be able to work these through.
If we can, we have other recourses. And the chairman votes yes.
I'm sorry, what happened?
Mr. Chairman, would you direct the public to stop the disruptive comments? I'm having trouble concentrating.
The chair votes yes.
What was the final vote, please?
4-3.
Thank you.
Discussion and possible action to rescind the public comment bylaw. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just make the same argument that I did a moment ago. Like, let's get back to a place that the attorneys agree we're okay, and then move forward from there.
I'll make my same argument.
Okay.
I'd like to say when we first put this bylaw before Mr. Cronin, I believe he only wanted one word changed, and the word was complaint, I believe. And we changed the word to what he suggested.
No, let me correct you. That was my suggestion.
Okay. So I personally think that we have to give people the right to say what they have to say and not just keep it as everything positive.
I think if we rescind this bylaw, there is no bylaw speaking to what citizens can or can't say. It was the old bylaw that said they couldn't say anything negative. If we rescind this bylaw, there is nothing saying what they can or can't say. So I think that would be up to the chair. And you might predict how I might approach it. Any further discussion?
Just to refresh folks' memories. The old bylaws didn't really say nothing negative, because certainly we've had critical comment from certainly all my years on here, and we have welcomed that. What it does say is performances of specific employees in a negative way, which is different than saying only positive.
Even if they're not identified, they're identifiable.
Correct.
So that to me says, you can't say bad things about anybody on our police, even if you don't identify them. And to me, that's unconstitutional, but.
Yeah, and I never took it that way. I mean, I think there's a difference between saying, you know, I have a concern about the way I was treated at a traffic stop versus Captain DePerry was a real jerk when he pulled me over for speeding.
I agree with that.
Right?
I agree with that.
Again, I think we need some
But
some wordsmithing here.
I think indeed.
Yeah.
If there's no other comment, let's have a roll call.
Okay, I'm May again.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes.
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 No.
And the chair says yes. And next, discussion and possible action to remove the complaints made to commissioners bylaw proposal from the table. This one I don't even understand, frankly, because it's tabled.
That's what I was. Wait, oh, I'm sorry.
And I see no reason.
I move to remove it so we can now do this the right way. So we can have a conversation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, so now I really don't see a reason. I mean, it's just basically, we're saying it's a future agenda item.
It's just parked.
Right, so
I don't see any reason to touch it.
I concur. You would have
I
to-
I don't understand what you just said, because
You'd have to
removing
what?
it from the table is touching it.
Right, you just took it off the table, so now it is.
No, we have voted, but I'm saying
Vote,
if we vote,
If we vote to remove it,
but if we don't vote, if we all say nay,
nay,
it stays on the table. Is that,
Yes, and what is wrong with that?
nothing.
nothing, is what I'm saying.
I think this will be the perfect trial run for getting Attorney Cronin here, the one that's tabled. Let's put some pressure on and have him sit here, maybe Selectman Fortuna or the rest of the board of selectmen want to sit with us. And we can hammer that one out first. See how that goes.
I might disagree with that.
That's fine. Not everybody agrees with
I think
me.
we should take the easy ones first. Any other discussion? All those in favor of leaving this bylaw tabled, say aye.
You
Aye.
did a roll
Hang on.
call.
I made the motion the way it was written in the agenda, even though I know I argued against it. So I think the vote would be to remove the complaints from the table. That would be the correct thing for us to vote on, right?
Yes.
Right, okay.
Okay,
So
on
then I
that,
vote nay.
you don't want to remove it.
I want it to stay tabled.
Yeah.
Is that what Joe just said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nay.
Jessica?
Nay.
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 Nay. Next item, discussion and possible action to confirm that the current bylaws for the Old Saybrook Police Commission are dated November 2022. Let me speak to that. I am opposed to taking us back to November 2020. It was those amendments that introduced the bylaw that police commissioners can't pursue inquiries to see if they want to bring something before the commission. that was directed at me because I had a conversation with a gentleman who made a complaint against the department. I think I was right then. I think I'm right now. I don't want to go back to where things were. As I made it plain, I don't think the citizen complaint, I don't think the public comment bylaw should be reinstated, that it is a hard and fast rule that we will not let people make negative comments. So I am opposed to restoring things to the way they were in November 2020. If I may be privileged to do it, I move that we do not take that action. Well, I ask that we not take that action. Anybody who wants to make a motion that we do that, I welcome a motion.
Legal question or procedural question. Help me out with this one. In the absence of language, so we've just said we're going to rescind language, but we're saying we're not putting the old language in, then what exists to guide us is I wonder aloud.
That would have been my question.
I just wonder aloud.
Legally, where does that leave us with big holes in our bylaws?
Are we on a cloud? Yeah, how do we follow?
I'm sorry.
But where are we? Yeah, what would we follow?
Well, we would not have a bylaw directing that. I should say, I think we should restore the bylaw on correspondence with commissioners, because that is the one that both lawyers said we need to have to be in order to be legal. So that one I would restore, but that's the only one I would restore.
So devil's advocate, then we have no language on public comment.
Correct.
Which means there's no
Well,
time
we
limits,
have-
there's no, right?
We have nothing in paragraph 4. We have the other paragraphs in public comment, which establish the time limit, did what the others do. Paragraph 4 is the one.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So from what I understand is, and we obviously had a lot of discussion about this in my office. If you're rescinding the bylaw amendment that was passed at a previous meeting, it automatically reverts to what was there. So in other words, the commission's taking action to undo what it did, which means what was there still exists.
No,
You and I had a conversation about why I thought this was important to be on the record, on the agenda. And my conversation to you when you approved the agenda item was that so the community of Old Saybrook would know that if they went to the town clerk's office or the library or the police station and asked for a copy of the police commission bylaws, they would know that the one dated 2020 was the one that was currently in effect. But I think that your other motions, if you're just undoing what you did, then what was there before exists.
Well, I don't know that I agree with that legal conclusion.
That's what I just said, and that was my hesitancy in rescinding, is that I think by default.
I think it
I
has
don't want it to go back, but.
And that's why I asked, like, if we just give it another month. Like, so what is the answer? After tonight, what do we follow?
Well, we follow, if we confirm, if we re-adopt the old commission bylaw dealing with commission correspondence, that would go back into the bylaws. But the amendments that we have adopted, and the one that we tabled.
The table's irrelevant, right? But we rescinded those other two, which means they're no longer there, which means we're back to where we were before we voted those in.
That is a conclusion that I don't know is the case. That's what I'm saying.
Well, do you think we should have found that out before we rescinded all these?
I frankly don't think it's going to make a hill of beans of difference. It is on principle that I am opposed to having anything to do with what I think is unconstitutional and what I think is unwise.
I guess I'm still confused. So if we don't adopt the past bylaws as they were before we amended them, then where What's there?
What we did was eliminate the old bylaw 4,
Mhm.
and we adopted a new one.
Okay,
If we just rescind the new one, we've still eliminated the old one,
so there's nothing there.
so there's nothing there.
I don't, I honestly, I don't think that's.
I understand your view.
Because on some of them, didn't you just amend certain parts of them?
Yeah.
And so if you're undoing what you did,
But we,
then everything else remains.
Chief, that's true. Everything else in public comment would remain, but there's no longer paragraph 4. So the other parts of public comment are still there.
Which is the bylaw from 2020. That's what I'm trying to say. So
Why do we need a motion to do this? If it's just gonna revert back, then why do we even need to have a motion? And
That is the other way to look at it.
I don't understand.
Well, I'm just saying, for me, I am not of a mind to sponsor something that I think is unconstitutional and something that I think is just plain wrong.
Right, but I'm looking at it as like, we just rescinded, you said, like, it was decided to rescind some bylaws
Mhm.
and to go back to what you think doesn't exist, but what other people think
Might
does
exist.
exist. But we need a final, we're just like, so it's limbo,
So if it reverts back, why do we have to say it reverts back?
like we're
We don't.
like literally more lost.
If it-
So I think, Renee, I heard the chief said the purpose of it was just to tell people, hey, the version that was 2020 is now the version. I think that was the only point of the agenda item. Do I have that correct?
that is what I explained to Mr.
Okay.
Chairman in my office.
So my,
Okay, so there's no need to.
so there's just, right, yes, it was. Mr. Chairman, is your concern in the 2020 version of number 4? And again, I think it's a little gray whether it's identified or not identified, but am I correct, try to be a good reflective listener, that your concern with, going back to the 2020 document, is taking away folks' rights to be more critical?
Absolutely.
Okay. So then I would suggest, by way of moving us along, that we have rescinded, we really are back to 2020, but you are the chair, and you would be the person who would have to make the decision during public comment, are we crossing that line or not? And I think until we get more clarity, I am comfortable saying we're going back to 2020, because I think that's where we are if we rescind, but understanding that you are going to, out of your concern, which I do not disagree with, but out of that you are going to manage public comment in a way that is more comfortable, more permissive, right? That would be my suggestion to move us forward this time.
Makes sense.
It does, and maybe public comments can be the one that we work on first. Going forward.
I think it should be.
Yep.
Mr. Cronin has expressed agreement with me that he thinks it's unconstitutional. Both under state and federal constitutions.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, what's your pleasure on item 7? Would you like someone to make a motion and to affirm it, or would you prefer just not to say that?
I would,
Even though we just kind of agreed it is, but
I would say that we table it.
very good.
Is there a motion to table?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call. Ms. Shea? Ms. Kaye?
Aye.
Mr. Mendoza? Mr. Himself? Aye.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, if someone from the media tomorrow comes and says, can we have the current version of the old Saybrook Police Commission bylaws? I am correct in giving them the 2020 version.
And referring them to tonight's discussion.
But it's the 2020 version that I would be handing anybody who asks.
And refer them to tonight's discussion.
So, yes.
It has to be yes, but it would be nice that if the public could hear that in fact that was the case.
Next item, discussion and possible action on the meeting minutes for May 23.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Jen, good job. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Executive reports. By the way, we've been going for an hour and 15 minutes. If anyone would like to recess, just speak up. I think we have a long night, so don't be bashful.
Would you like a recess?
No, I'm fine, but.
Everyone's good? Okay, great. Okay, so as everyone knows, the fiscal year 22 budget will be coming to a conclusion on June 30th. As you know, we always wait to give you our final financials until they are approved by the finance department. That usually happens in the July or the August meetings. So we plan on doing that as normal. Fiscal year 23 obviously will start on July 1st. And as always, we freeze the budget on July 1st, except for the things that we need to pay automatically. We still do not have a fuel contract for the upcoming year. Everyone has made the decision that it's not wise at this point to enter into a pre-buy situation for both gasoline and or diesel. So we'll continue to pay the quote unquote municipal at the pump prices. We did, as part of our small surplus for fiscal year 22, purchase new tactical body armor for all of our personnel. The ones that we have now are since I became chief, I think, in 2009. So those ceramic plates have had their time of going in and out of the car for 13 and a half years. So we'll be talking with you once we find out the legal ramifications of where that body armor can go, whether or not that can be auctioned, or if the commission wants to donate that to maybe an overseas military, whatever that you're thinking about. But we'll bring that back to the table once the new stuff comes in over the next couple of months. But obviously that'll be the police commission's decision. Under off budget accounts, we have the driver safety fund. By the way, this is our new license plate this year. So our theme this year is to our continuous support to the new lights on the turf field at the high school. So we have depicted the turf field under the lights at night. So we're very, very proud of our partnership with that committee. One of the leaders of that committee right here is our selectman, Scott Giedrich. Most importantly, all our Rams, the Rams that will play on the field, not only in the next couple of years, those in high school, but the kindergartners, kids in kindergarten and first grade. That when they reach that level, will be playing under the lights, and it will be just become a normal Old Saybrook thing by that time. So we're really looking forward to continue supporting that great wholesome family activity, hopefully for Friday night lights. One of the things that I want to talk to you about, I spent some time talking to the chairman about, is the purchase of additional license plate readers. So right now, we have 2 of our vehicles that have the license plate readers installed. And license plate readers are great law enforcement technology that help us solve crimes. A lot of people think of a license plate reader old fashioned. It's used just to find those unregistered cars. And yes, we do use it for that purpose. But these are cameras that capture all license plates on all vehicles as we're just driving around the town. So if a police officer is responding to a burglar alarm, for example, and as they're driving to the burglar alarm, this license plate reader, the 2 cameras on the cars, are scanning all the plates. We get to the house and lo and behold, it's an actual burglary. And when we're doing a neighborhood canvas as part of our investigation, or we see on a ring cam a certain color car leaving, we get to look back on all the license plates that have been read, find that car, find that license plate, and it helps the investigative efforts. It's so important that those 2 cars are constantly on the road, making sure that we're capturing that data. With our new fleet, I want to be able to balance out the cars and their use. So what I'm looking to do this evening is to get the commission's support to buy 2 additional units. That would allow the patrolman, usually 2 on at a time, to balance the use of the cars between 4 different cars. It'll bring a little bit of additional vitality to our fleet while still allowing the technology to be in place. If we purchase the units, a unit is $14,625. My proposal this evening is to purchase 1 from the driver safety account, which we have done in the past. The 2 we have now, 1 came from a justice assistance grant, which is a dissemination of money from the federal government to the state to us. Nothing we apply for, it's just given as part of a federal program, and 1 from the driver safety account. Tonight, what I would recommend is 1 come out of the driver safety account and 1 come out of the police administrative fund, which obviously the police commission has authority over. So the way we set up the agenda is, I think, Mr. Chairman, correct me if I'm wrong, we would kind of talk about it here, but it's an action item a little bit later on the agenda. Is that so you want to? Yes, proceed. So would you like to answer any questions now, if anyone has any questions, or you want to wait for the action item?
I think if there are questions,
I have
discuss.
one question.
Sure.
Are you reading only Connecticut plates?
Oh,
Or
no.
Are you reading
All license plates, yes.
all
All.
US?
Mhm. Yeah, all license plates. And there's a daily list that's uploaded of stolen motor vehicles. So if you see a stolen motor vehicle, it will alert us. So as soon as that's entered into the system, the national system, that a vehicle's been stolen, it lights up on the computer and alerts the officer right away.
Okay, thank you.
So did any of our new cars come with plate readers, or do we still only have our 2 original ones?
Just the 2 that were reinstalled on 2 of the new cars. So we had 2 Fords that had them,
I remember that.
and then those were transferred to the new vehicles.
So none of the old cars have them.
No.
So this may be, sorry, this may be silly, but would they be updated readers or like the same ones? Like how old are the original ones?
So the original ones, I think, are 3-4 years old, maybe. So they'd be the newer version of them, but they all operate the same.
Okay.
Still, yeah.
When we had talked about this, you were planning on taking both out of the driver safety fund. What's the occasion for that
Yeah.
switch?
I don't want to deplete completely one of our off-budget accounts. And I actually thought about some comments made by the vice chairman at one point about how there is a significant amount of money in the administrative fund. And I thought that this would be a wise use of some of the money that's been sitting there for years.
And grow.
And grow, yes.
No other questions? Let's continue with your report.
Great, thank you very much. Under personnel matters, there's a bunch of things, and some of them, again, have corresponding action items a little bit later on the agenda. So Master Sergeant Vanderhorst, as you know, formally retired from the department after an exemplary 35-year plus career last November. His certification expires on June 30th. He's been spending his recent retirement time at the beach, but not laying on the beach, serving in the capacity as an employee for the Public Works Department, checking beach passes and doing other security and monetary related tasks for the Park and Recreation Department. So I called and I said, your certification's expiring on June 30th. Would you like to come back and help us out with things? Things like a lot of our private duty work. So having more folks available for that lessens the burden on full-time staff when they're not seeking those extra employment opportunities. So we still have Master Sergeant Vanderhorst's uniforms. We still have his same equipment. And in fact, we have not reassigned his locker out of respect. So this is really a very quick come back from retirement and walk right in. He'll have to do a couple things for the police academy. He'll have to shoot, take a couple of quick classes. But we spoke to the folks at the Police Officer Standards and Training Council, and he would be allowed to do that in a certain amount of time. So there's no additional cost to us in bringing him back. And quite frankly, we continue to get a return on a investment we made a long, long time ago. So we always welcome our former employees back. So I'll be asking the commission to reinstate him. He will be a patrolman because that's how we bring back our retired folks, but always will be referred to as his last title of Master Sergeant.
I have a question.
Yes.
Did I hear you say that he would be taking over private duty things? Is that like directing traffic at a construction thing or whatever?
Yeah, he won't be taking it over. He'll just be available for it. So in the union bargaining unit agreement, it delineates exactly how people can fill those positions. You can imagine first right of refusals to our full-time officers, and then it goes to a separate rotation list of our part-time officers. He would be on that rotation list. It's one more person that can raise their hand and say, I'll do that today, before we tell someone who didn't want that opportunity that they must work in the interest of public safety.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next item on the agenda is Patrolman Newhouse. So Patrolman Newhouse came to us from by way of Hartford. I think a majority of you were on the commission. Did that happen after the election? And some circumstances changed in Patrolman Newhouse's life right after we hired her. And therefore, the type of employment she seeks and desires has changed. And so because we do not want to lose the return on the investment that we made with Patrolman Newhouse, she is requesting to go from full-time to part-time status, which means that she would be able to fill in some vacancies when we have them, both for patrol and if she chose private duty, but I think she's going to choose more patrol. and be able to help us until we get back up to staff. And so I would highly recommend, as I do with Master Sergeant Vanderhorst, that we approve Patrolman Newhouse's request to transfer from full-time status to part-time status. And that again is a action item. It's not an action item. I think I'm just telling you she's going from full-time to part-time, correct? But those are the reasons why she's doing that, and we completely support that. Patrolman Wright is resigning as of June 30th of this year. She's transferring to the Plainfield Police Department, and we wish her well in her endeavors. We're allowing her, as we do with all of our lateral hires or lateral transfers, to take her soft body armor, which is specifically measured to her, so she's not at a PD without protection, waiting for new equipment to come in. And she's also purchasing some of her uniforms that they also wear up there. In Plainfield, when you go there, you have to buy all your uniforms, whereas in Old Saybrook, we provide uniforms. So she's purchasing the brand new stuff that she just got that they use there. And we wish her well. Patrolman Schultz will be returning, I believe it's July 7th. He returns into an administrative capacity. I just want to remind the commission that we will be spending our time adhering to that last chance agreement. And the first thing that will be accomplished upon his return is that new hire baseline psychological assessment. And we'll be able to brief the commission on that after that happens. After that assessment is good, if that comes back positive, then he will go through the training that is outlined in the last chance agreement, and then eventually will return to patrol. And I know the commission is looking for specific reports from me on his progress. And so I'll work with the chairman to make sure we properly agenda that and notice him that I'll be providing those updated status reports. For employee discipline, it's my obligation under our general orders to advise the police commission that I have issued a written reprimand to a sworn member of the department for violation of General Order 5.32, which is police pursuits and controlled termination devices. Moving on to the fleet update. So we have finally selected the vehicles that we will not be keeping. So as I explained to the commission before, we sent every one of the old cars to Saybrook Ford, paid them 1 hour of labor for each car, and said, please do a bumper to bumper inspection. Tell us what's wrong and how much it would cost to fix it. And we also did a survey of our staff because they've been the ones driving the cars. And we said, which car do you think we should keep? Which car should we leave? Because mileage on a car, the number of miles, doesn't exactly always tell the true story of the police car. So in doing so, we have selected the ones that will be going out to auction. I put my old car out to auction first. We use that auction site, Municibid. There are several different government auctions. I just chose that one because it came up on a Google search, and other agencies have used it and they've used it successfully. So my car, the slated trade-in value was going to be around $8,000, and the current highest bid is $12,500. So I'm pleased with that. However, when you become the winning bidder, you get to decide if you actually want to buy the car or not. So we're going through that process to see if the winning bidder actually wants to buy the car or not. And if they don't, we can go to the next highest bidder to see what that is, or we can put it out to bid again. There are 2 current cars, 2 of the older detective cars are actively at auction now. I think they have another 9 or 10 days to go. We're not putting everything on all at once because according to the site manager, if you flood the site with your fleet, you're dividing up people who are looking for the cars. So a little supply and demand. All the cars that we're getting rid of have no license plates on them, and they are all parked in the side parking lot where the new Tahoes were, where people were claiming I was hiding them in plain sight of Flint Street when you drove by. Now all the old cars are there, and they have big red A's in the window, signifying that they're going up for auction eventually. And if someone wanted to view the cars, if they were bidding on the cars, they can certainly do that in our public parking lot. The project, I just want to remind everyone, the project was funded at $540,000. We are now, our expenditures to date, on the phone with the finance director today, $506,654.41. So we're in a good position. Remember that when these vehicles were valued for their trade-ins, 2 different things happened. One, the used car market spiked. But the used car market spiked for civilian vehicles. not with vehicles with 6 or 7 holes in their roof. So when I brought this to the commission, we made the decision, you made the decision that we would be sending these cars out as police vehicles with all the equipment inside. And there's been some talk lately that people were concerned that perhaps, was that the right decision? I don't know. It's the decision we made. The agreement that we have, the edict from the commission is if I cannot auction a car for the amount of money that it was valued at 2 years ago, I must come to this commission. By statute, this commission oversees that fleet. So you are the only ones, unless you delegate that to another board, commission, individual, firm, what have you, you guys have authority over what happens with that fleet. And so I will continue my report to you. But again, that's why we're not putting them all out at the same time. There are still a couple things to do with the new fleet or the transfer to the fleet. So one of the cars that we're keeping is going to go to one of our detectives. So that changes from a marked car to an unmarked car. So we're currently getting quotes to take the black, white, black car and just paint the middle black. By the way, again, so we bought them black in the first place and painted the center white. So we'll keep you updated on the fleet update as we do every single month. Our professional development update this month is quite extensive. And here it is. So I'm going to read you off the names of the people that recertified this year for their police officer certification. Remember, there was a delay because of COVID. They weren't allowing us to recertify last year. So myself, Master Sergeant DeMarco, Sergeant Walsh, Hardy, Michalski, and Palmieri, Detective Tabor, and Patrolman Millardo, Zarbo, DeFrance, White, Moreau, Dwyer, Gabinelli, Rooney, Movahill, Chiacco, and Tanner, all recertified this year. Interestingly enough, those who actually expired last year, but got a year extension on their certification due to the COVID regulations with the state, they don't get a new 3-year certification. They get the balance of their old 3-year certification. So some of these folks, like myself, by the way, only have 2 years left on their certification. Maybe that's all I'll need. But we'll have to look at next year's budget to do a little catch up. So normally we spread those classes out over a 3-year period. And because now that recertification period technically is 2 years, those folks affected will have to do more in the 2 years. However, we have the benefit, as you know, I've realized one of my professional goals years ago about making more internal instructors. So maybe there'll just be more additional in-house instruction to meet those needs. Along those lines, and a great segue, Patrolman Moreau has completed basics instructor development. So now he gets to choose an area of law enforcement certification that he would like to specialize in, and then he can become one of our in-house instructors. Sergeant Hardy completed his bicycle patrol technique certification, and the commission, I hope, saw that. I didn't get a response from anyone, but I sent you an email showing you that bike patrol was back, and I'll touch on that in another segment of our agenda, but I sent you some photos of him. So he went to that certification school, which is great. You might have heard a lot about in the news, especially with the Police Accountability Act, the A-RIDE course, Advanced Roadside Impairment Driving Enforcement. So 2 additional members of our department are now certified in that, Patrolman DeFrance and Detective Tabor. And I am in the final stages of recertifying about 15 or 16 of us in their emergency medical responder and or emergency medical technician certification, which was done all on duty, which is fantastic. So just a little update on what we're doing professional development wise. There's no questions. I can go into our summer initiatives. Please do. Great. So as this commission knows, we always do a little special event over the summer. We do our Shorts 4 program. And this year we've chosen Shorts for Seniors. So we're going to be partnering with the Estuary Council to help raise money to fund some of the programs that may have lost some of their funding over the course of our COVID years. So things like Meals on Wheels and some fraud protection type courses and bringing in guest speakers to the elderly population that use the Estuary Council. That's what our funds are going to go to. I'm going to assign a couple of different officers to work with the fine folks at the Estuary Council to not only identify those programs, but to see if we can solidify our relationship with that special part of our policing community. So that will be for July and August. officers must pay $5 a day or $100 a month to wear any aspect of the summer uniform. In previous years, our police union has partnered with us by matching that. They have not committed to matching that, but they've committed to making some sort of donation. So hopefully that'll come through and they'll be able to partner with us, because again, Shorts for Seniors, I think, will be a really great program that will be
We've got to
implemented
work
by us
on the
this year.
name.
What's that?
Shorts for Seniors. It doesn't ring.
Does it ring? I like it.
I like it too.
But we've agreed to disagree on several other points. So we're going to keep Shorts for Seniors. Bike Patrol is back. So my hope with Bike Patrol is we have about 5 or 6 folks that are certified in that. Bike Patrol is always going to be an extra thing. Very rarely will we have that specific person on a shift with enough officers that we don't need them responding to calls in their car. So those folks are going to be working with Sergeant Hardy to kind of come up with a loose schedule to try to make sure we have some sort of bike patrol at least once a week this summer. Hopefully it'll be more than once a week. So we have some of our part-time officers. Our school resource officer, Karen Gavinelli, is certified in bike patrol. She's quote unquote off for the summer. So I'm hoping that she takes advantage of coming in a couple days here and there. Bike patrol is not traditionally an 8-hour shift. You can imagine that might get a little tiring. So even if we, hit a neighborhood here and there and we're doing 2 hours here or a 4-hour block there, I think when people see a police officer on a bicycle, they like it, they're approachable, they get to have conversations one-on-one with the police officer and kind of get to see that person behind the badge, which is really the goal of that program. And then along those lines, we are going to be sponsoring several picnics at the police department over the course of the summer. So we're going to take a look at some Fridays and use some Fridays to grill up some burgers and dogs with regional health department approval, of course, and have people be able to stop by and interact with people on the patrol shift that day. Come grab a hamburger, have a hot dog, a little lemonade, my favorite iced tea with lemon, and just strike up a conversation with the people that are protecting you in the community. Again, another way for people to see us, not just the cops and the Tahoes, but look at the person behind the badge and get to know us a little bit better. So I will let the commission know when we have the picnic dates. I'll try to pick dates that there are not going to be rain. We're going to do it right in front of the police department for everyone to see and welcome all to attend.
Can I ask you, how will you promote that? I was just gonna ask that.
We're going to promote that through all the normal media means that we promote everything. So we have never been accused of not getting our message out. So we will certainly use local print media, social media, our friends in the social media world, as well as the news stations. I'm sure it will be an interesting story, at least one of the picnics for one of them to pick up on that. And of course, everyone watching our meetings will be able to know that. Yes.
Question on something not here. What about Marine Patrol, since that's summertime activity?
Yeah, Marine Patrol is a designated schedule. If you remember, were you on the board for Selectmen when that was done, or was that after your time?
Oh, we had Marine Patrol.
No, I know, but we created a new department regulation in concert with an ad hoc committee established by the Board of Selectmen that detailed exactly when the police boat would be on patrol and therefore what the budget would be. So our vessel is on patrol Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays, Friday evening, Saturday days, and Sunday days. We obviously respond to emergencies. We've done a lot of that already. I think we've saved some people from the water already. I think we had a sinking jet ski the other day. We had an active boat fire where the fire department got to concentrate on the actual fire, and Captain DeBear was actually on the boat, was able to concentrate on where all the people were that were on the boat that was on fire. So working with our brothers and sisters in the fire service, it's just a tremendous asset. But we're staying in concert with our department general order on Marine Patrol, which again came from that ad hoc committee of the Board of Selectmen.
Who got there first? Never mind.
It's not a race.
A team
effort. Under traffic safety, there's just 2 things I want the commission to know about that we're working on. First of all is the application for the cannabis dispensary facility at 233 Boston Post Road. This is located right across from Cloud9 Catering, the Cloud9 Catering building, right at that very odd intersection. As you can imagine, as your chief of police, I am against the facility coming to Old Saybrook for a variety of reasons. I think it will dramatically decrease the quality of life that we currently have in Old Saybrook. I think it will draw an additional criminal element into our town that we just don't need. And this area, this facility where it's located, is the worst possible location to increase traffic. So you don't want to increase the traffic in an area that is coming off of major interstate. And so we're going to be looking and asking for a traffic study to see if the influx of people that they claim are going to come to this facility, would that stack back up and prevent exiting off of I-95, which is an issue. We also have concerns about increasing traffic in that general area. There's a daycare a little bit down the road. So I have a lot of concerns with that I will be expressing to the zoning board, and I will be asking for a traffic study. The second one is Hanford Commons. This is just the continuation of the build out of Lynn Street. So if you think TJ's, you think across the street and the apartment building that's up there with some retail on the bottom floor, this will be the next one. So if you're playing Monopoly, we're buying one more hotel. This one will go towards the intersection of Lynn Street and Elm Street. It's about 15 apartments, I believe. 5 are designated to be affordable apartments. So we don't see any concern about that. When the project came through, we looked at the traffic flows. We talked to a traffic engineer, I believe the zoning commission did, of that area. That area can handle that residential traffic. And that serves my executive reports.
Thank you very much. Any questions? All right, moving on. I would welcome a motion to reinstate Master Sergeant Vanderhorst as a per diem police officer.
So moved. I'll second that.
Any further discussion needed on that one? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I welcome a motion to support the chief of police's recommendation to purchase additional license plate readers, 2 of them, with the monies to come from the off-budget funds identified.
So moved.
Any further discussion on that one?
Just that we're only gonna have a total of 4 then.
You'll have a total of 4.
Okay.
And for the reasons the chief explained. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
On correspondence, I have no mail correspondence. I have forwarded all email correspondence to Jen and to everybody on the commission. Does anyone else have any correspondence to look at? This next item, this one's yours, Chief.
Great, thank you, and I appreciate you allowing it on the agenda. This is actually something I talked to Commissioner Notar Francesco about actually during our pre-meeting before you're actually sworn in, I think. And I know there's some differing opinions between the chairman and you on this issue, so I appreciate you allowing me to discuss it. I really think, and I certainly think recent events kind of highlight this, I think that the commission needs a retreat. The commission needs to get together as one body and talk about its priorities for the future, right? So I think it's important for us, the police department, and for you, the police commission, to appear to the public that we are working towards moving forward, that we're not campaigning, that we're now governing, and actually setting some goals. You would set goals for yourself as an entire commission, not one caucus, not another caucus, and then talking about it together. Actually sit down as a group and say, this is what we want to accomplish this year. Maybe it's a conversation of how you interact with each other at a meeting or how a meeting is run. And it gives you the opportunity without agenda items to say, hey, this is important to me, or hey, this really bugged me, or hey, how can we work on this? So I would like the opportunity to establish a, make it be on the weekend if you want, on a weekday night, 2, 3, 4 hours max. Get you guys in the room, let's break some bread together and see if we can't have positive discussions, get everyone together on the same page with varying opinions, but at least get on the same page on how you're going to move the bus forward on behalf of Team Old Saybrook. I think that our citizens, and I know the members of my department, would love to see kind of a more cohesive commission. And I think that you'll become that way if you have an opportunity to get together, not in this setting, not with, I'm gonna have some people come, I'm gonna have some people come, we're all gonna just sit down and talk as citizens of the town of Old Saybrook that were elected on how we're moving the agenda forward and how we're gonna work together on behalf of all citizens. So that's That's kind of my pitch.
We've had this discussion before, and I don't know how we're gonna get the 7 of us together and not have a public meeting.
So I think you can get it together, have a public meeting, but you don't have to have public comment. And I think that for the supporters of both parties, for lack of a better word, I think if you had conversations with them and said, look, we really need this. This is something that's important to us. I think that they would respect your decision. I don't think there's anyone that was in the audience tonight that wouldn't connect with one of you to simply say, hey, look, we need some time together. And if they support you and you support that idea, they would support the concept.
So it would be a public meeting.
Of course it would be.
Okay.
Yeah, I would assume. I mean, we can talk to the Board of Education. Board of Educations have retreats.
They usually boards do it, Board of Ed does it in executive session, because the agenda would generally support that concept.
There will be public comment.
At the end.
Yeah, and so if there's a way to do that, it's a great way to do that, right? So I would just ask that we explore the idea. The first thing is, can we get on the same page to sit in a room and talk, right? And talk about ideas and theories and how we're going to move forward. I really think for the citizens of the town, for the members of my department, who are not all registered voters in the town of Old Saybrook, but they are your employees, I think it would be great for everyone to see. I don't think everyone wants to see conflict every single meeting.
I don't think disagreeing is conflict. I think when people have opinions and they're not of certain people's opinions, I don't think you can say that, we're arguing the whole entire time. I just want to know logistics, because I don't know what kind of executive session you enter into just to sit around and talk to each other.
It wouldn't be executive session. It would have to be a public
Jill
meeting.
just said it would be.
It might have to be. I think we look into it, right? We can call FOI. Those are free attorneys. We can talk to them and say, hey, look, this is what we'd like to do. How can we actually do it? And so Renee, to your point, I agree with you. Disagreeing is not always being confrontational or argumentative, but somebody might say in a retreat format, hey, listen, when you disagree, you might not know this, you come across like this. And so we all go running to a corner. Let's figure out a way to work more harmoniously as an elected board on behalf of the citizens of the town, on behalf of the folks that are sworn to keep us safe.
I understand that, but I just still don't understand how that's gonna work. What's the item gonna be? We're gonna talk about each other, to each other? I'm not following.
I think it would only work if it wasn't public, to be completely honest.
It can't be though. It
Well,
can't
then
be
it's,
public.
then it's like a.
Well, again, I would suggest we do some research, because several schools I've worked at, they have retreats for boards of education. It's not a public meeting.
Mhm.
They get together and there's some training, right? Some conversations about maybe how a meeting is going to run, some information about how the schools operate, those kinds of things. And then there's also the collegial conversation. So I think there's a legal mechanism for this, but I think we just need to do our homework.
There is a legal mechanism for it, and I wholeheartedly, as I've told my colleagues individually, that I support this. And I'm very happy that you have followed up to at least move this in that direction. Because I think from the ones I've been in, they have been very well worth it. And we do come away with a different camaraderie after the fact.
So it's gonna be the 7 of us and nobody else.
It would be.
Well, I think the chief wants to be there as well.
Well, I understand what's about the commission then hashing out things and the chief's involved.
That would be up to the commission, Renee, right? So I think if the desire is for a harmonious working environment, maybe I'm not there for the whole time, maybe I'm there for some of it. Totally your call. All I can tell you is once a year, we have an operational strategic planning session with all members of the agency. And it benefits all of us. And when it benefits all of us, it benefits the department. And what benefits the department benefits the town. And so many of the things that I have brought to the commission, all commissions during my entire tenure as chief, have been unanimously supported by our staff. And in fact, some of them, many of them, are not even my ideas. They're the ideas from the people who are boots on the ground, doing the job, that had the courage to raise their hand, write on a sticky note, or ask somebody else to say, or write anonymously to me. And that's a good way of leading. And I really think that the commission would benefit from that. It's an apolitical thing. It's just a discussion to be more positive and move in a positive direction. That's it.
But what you do with your staff is very different because they're not elected officials.
Right. So I think what Commissioner Maselli and sorry. Yes. I think what they're saying is there might be a mechanism to do that because both have experienced this same type of concept and they've both been part of or have been staffed to an elected board, publicly elected
I
board.
just
So
feel like we went down this road with Tom Hennick before.
I have a note, we need Tom Hennick.
yeah, let's ask them the question, right? And if the first question is no, I think the follow-up question is, how the heck does the Board of Ed do it?
This coincides with establishing goals, so forth is, which is something we want to do, right?
But instead of doing that in a caucus, you do that as a team.
It's just ironic to me that we're gonna say it's not gonna be political, but the last time this was brought up is when there was the majority of Democrats. It did get spoken about again when we had Republicans, and here we are again with Democrats. And I laugh at the hypocrisy when people say that we make it political, and yet it seems like other people are. If we can get this done legally, that's fine by me, but I'll tell you right now, and I said this last time, I don't care, I'm a big girl, if someone wants to say something, if they wanna call me out on something, that's fine. I don't understand the secrecy in doing it with the town knowing, with the public knowing. That's just my opinion. If you guys can figure a way to work it out, I'll be
I
part
don't
of
think
it.
it's not without the public knowing, I just think it's candid if we were able to do that by ourselves and just hash it out once. It's not about keeping the public away from it.
But then it is if it's not a public meeting. Let's see what happens. Let's see if there's a way to.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be decision-making. There's certainly not gonna be motions. I think you do it in a manner and it's facilitated in a manner to be beneficial to the body.
I think we don't need to beat this horse anymore. We need to find out what FOIA's views are and see what we can work with.
Okay.
Agreed.
Next item, discussion and possible action concerning budgeting for police commission consultants. I asked for this item on the agenda because of my dismay that we run into resistance from the Board of Selectmen. I think it's time that Police Commission requested of the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance that we be given budgetary approval for consultants, both legal and police department expertise. I know the chief is investing a lot of money in basically a records management, data management system, the next gen.
Well, we have, that was the vote of a previous commission to buy the system. There's been no additional money spent.
But it was $150,000 investment.
Yeah.
And that ought to be generating data that I'm sure you will be using, and I think you might even benefit from outside eyes and ears looking at it and saying, how can we maximize the value of this? So,
considering we're not in a budget process,
right, let's just get the ball rolling. Let's go on record as saying to the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen, we think the commission should have a budget for consultants, legal and otherwise.
I guess. Firstly, I need to know a lot more about that, right? So, Cronin is our attorney, McHale is our attorney, Kermit is our insurance company. So in some ways, we already have that. So I guess I'm looking for a lot more information of what it is you're looking for,
I'm looking
both
for
dollar amount and more specific, sorry.
Yeah. I'm looking for $20,000 for council selected by the commission. Up to. I hope that we didn't need it. I doubt that we will. I know Mr. McHale's opinion was $2,500. Of course, you get what you pay for.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, come on, with all due respect,
I'm sorry,
that's
you read his bills, he had 1 hour of research and analysis.
I know, but
That's not enough for this job.
I think that's rude. I really do, sir, with all due respect. He's a professional that's been retained by the town of Old Saybrook, that has been very good counsel to the town of Old Saybrook for many, many years. So has Mr. Cronin. I don't think that throwing out side-handed insults to the professionals that we rely on every day is healthy for our relationship. I really don't.
I have thrown out the criticism of Mr. Cronin's opinion, and I haven't been shy about that. And I'm not shy about saying that I think
there's a time and a place, sir.
I think when you spend more time in conversation with the chief and Mr. Cronin than you do analyzing the problem, you're not really helping your client.
Unless your client needs the help, and that's why you're talking about it. Right? I mean,
But we're the client.
well, sometimes I'm the client, sir. Right?
Sometimes-
So I'm tasked with managing our personnel.
Right.
If I have a personnel issue, I have to contact the legal counsel, so I don't
Let me
make a
just say-
misstep. And
Let me just say
incur
one more
liability.
thing. We're talking about the commission's budget. We're not talking about your budget. So,
Okay, but right now, when the commission picks up the phone and calls an attorney, it comes out of the budget that I'm responsible for, which is one of the main reasons that we are so over budget in our legal line item this year.
And that is, I think, why this is being presented, so that it removes it from that.
Yes, however, I've been in town for a long time, so have you. No one has willingly wanted to increase the amount of money we spend on police services every year. And this would be adding an additional $20,000 financial liability.
I do not see this as adding to the police department budget. I see this as a separate budget for the police commission.
Right, but it's an additional $20,000 of.
For the police commission.
Right, but it's still adding $20,000 to the municipal budget.
Sure.
So that's more money on
Not for the
police related.
department.
But it's
That's enough.
related to the police department. You're the police commission.
We're the police commission. We're different and
So,
separate.
so
from-
Mr. Chairman, what kind of motion are you looking for tonight? Or are you just throwing this out there for all of us to consider as we slowly or quickly approach budget season?
I am inviting a motion that we request funding, a budget from the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen in the amount of $70,000 for consultants.
You said 20, now you're saying
I said
70?
20 for legal, 50 for police consultants.
So moved.
Now, or like the next budget season? Obviously, the next budget season.
Whenever they can do it. Whenever they can do it, legally. I leave that to them. They're the ones who have to decide that. They've said on record, as I understand it, that the police commission's never asked them for money. So they aren't going to touch it. So this is an ask.
There's a motion on the floor.
I'm sorry.
We have a motion on the floor.
I think we do. Could we state the motion for the record, please? Because I'm,
Okay.
because I'm so sure in a second.
Well, I wanted to second it.
Oh.
Yeah, state it again.
Renee, your motion?
Sorry, I was just going off of what you said, that I agree with.
Yeah.
That we make a motion that we request a budget of
$70,000
for
for
legal.
consultants for the police commission. 20 for legal, 50 for police expertise.
I
We may
second.
not spend it, but we have it available.
I second.
Any further discussion?
Yes. I think that, and I might be wrong, but I think that in July comes the figuring out what other bills need to be paid and that a surplus then, if there is one, or a deficit, if there isn't a surplus, is found. And I think at that point in the past, and again, I might be wrong, that you can encumber some of that money for something. So if going along with this, that states, the commission may from time to time require the services of individuals outside the employ of the town of Old Saybrook, include but not limited to consultants, clerks, and legal advisors. And we can enter into limited contractual agreement to hire the individuals. I don't know how we can hire somebody if we don't have any money. So I think that if there is a surplus on part of the town, that it's possible to approach the Board of Finance. I don't know if we have to approach the Board of Selectmen and say, we need this. And yes, it happens. No, it doesn't happen, but I think we need to get the ball rolling.
Any further discussion?
I would be concerned on moving so quickly on something. I mean, where does 70,000 even come from? Where are their specifics? Where are the rates? This seems like a pretty huge ask without anything more than here's an idea, let's do this, because
Well, let's
we're
figure
upset.
out what the legal line is over and what we've spent out of that legal line, and then there's our justification.
Do you think you'll continue to spend that much money every year?
I hope not.
Exactly. So I would just say, before you establish a brand new municipal budget, right? So this will be a whole brand new budget in the municipal budget, right? Police department, fire department, wetland, zoning, police commission, $70,000. Under Commissioner Manning's idea, that would happen with surplus funds without ever a vote of the people of establishing a brand new municipal budget in the amount of $70,000. That just seems odd to me. I think it would have to be part of the budget process. And you're part of the municipal budget, which would fall under the Board of Selectmen's recommendation to the Board of Finance as established by our charter.
All we can do is ask them to follow the law and do it the right way.
I would suggest that the motion doesn't include a dollar amount, and instead it focuses on having a conversation with the Board of Finance / Board of Selectmen about establishing a budget. I think it's a much more responsible way to proceed. And I don't believe any funds left on June 30th can be spent after July 1st in a municipal budget.
The Board of Finance can do that.
Any other discussion?
I just haven't had any time to digest this. This is the first time I've ever even heard an inkling of establishing a budget for the police. I've got about 6 minutes of thought into this, and then we're gonna have a vote in the motion, and that's pretty much why the bylaws and everything, why I haven't had enough time to process any of this. Go ahead, let's move it forward.
Carol, you were on the Board of Selectmen. Who pays for the clerks and the other boards and commissions? Who pays if they have lawsuits or need legal opinions?
You're asking me to go back a long
Well, I'm just
ways.
saying,
Well,
does it get taken from the zoning department, or, I mean, I don't think the zoning.
No,
department
other
pays for the
departments
board.
have budgets. I think our budget for legal is very low and is overspent. But, so I don't really have an answer for you.
Okay.
But, Bernie, you've had your packet since last Thursday, and it's item whatever. I don't do Roman numerals very much anymore. I guess it's 14. So to say you've only had a few minutes.
There was never a dollar amount, there was never.
No, but to say that
I understand that it's on here, but the discussion was 6 minutes long, and now we're voting on something.
So there's a labor legal item that covers every other town employee. So if the zoning department, Renee, has an issue with an employee or farmer or whatever, there's a separate legal account that sits under the Board of Selectmen that absorbs that. Some of our contract negotiation, because the chief negotiator by state statute is the first selectman, that comes out of the labor line item underneath the Board of Selectmen.
I understand that that's for employees, but somewhere there's gotta be a time where zoning has needed a legal opinion.
There
So where's
is,
that
yeah,
coming
and
from?
they have separate legal line items for that. And to Carol's,
They have their own lawyer.
they have their own lawyer, right? But to Carol's point, where she talks in the bylaws about hiring people outside the town's employ, those are the people who are presented to you. For example, Attorney McHale is the town labor attorney. If the commission needed to talk to the town attorney, the bylaws, the town labor attorney, the bylaws allow you to do that. He's not under the town's employ. He's outside counsel that the Board of Selectmen appoints as labor counsel. Same thing with Attorney Cronin. The town does use other attorneys and other firms for other municipal business other than Attorney Cronin. As an example, when Commissioner Wilcox wanted an opinion on the scope and authority of the police commission, him and the first selectman agreed to hire an independent attorney that became, employed by the town through a contract for $5,000 to get the commission an opinion on what your statutory authority was. So this is done. My concern is not you having the budget. My concern is more money on police services under a big umbrella and establishing a brand new municipal budget without it going through the normal budget process.
If it can't go through, then it can't. But you have to start with an ask. And that's all I'm starting with, an ask.
Well, I hear that, but I also think we need to start with information and data. I mean, I still don't know where you came up with 70,000 other than you said 50-20. I don't have a record of what we spent this year or what we spent last year or the year before. I have no historicals to base that on. The 50,000 for consultants, who were those consultants? What are they? So I think we need to have that information before we really have take any action at all.
All I know is if I went to the Board of Finance and said, I need 70 grand, and I didn't have answers to any of those questions, we'd have a really long meeting on how unprepared I was and didn't have my stuff together. So I just think it's a big ask without some details behind it.
So then how about you present us a report with all of the legal bills that are on the budget last year, the year before, itemized with copies of all the invoices, and then we can figure out how the money got spent, and then we'll have the data that we need.
No, this is different from that. I am not interested in.
You just want to
adding-
ask.
No, and I'm not interested in adding to your $7,000 budget, another $70,000. I'm asking for autonomy for the police commission to have consultants of their choosing instead of the town's choosing.
But you are the town, you understand that, right?
We are the police commission.
Under the town. So the only way you exist is by town charter.
Sure.
So you're part of the town of Old Saybrook. You're not an independent entity, just like the police department's not an independent entity. We're all under the umbrella of the town of Old Saybrook.
I completely agree with all of that. The Board of Education has a budget. The police department has a budget. Different departments have budgets. I like one for the police commission.
So
That's all I'm saying.
again, I would propose that the motion be more along the lines of the police commission enter a conversation with the finance director and the board of finance to discuss the possibility of creating a separate police commission budget for the next fiscal year. I think that is a much more responsible agenda action item than asking for $70,000.
I'm happy to start there.
May I ask what the motion is? Done.
Request a budget of $70,000 from the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen for the Police Commission, 20 for consultants and 50 for police expertise.
I'm willing to withdraw my second and reword it.
So then, may I entertain a motion that the police commission authorize the chair to approach the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance to discuss ways and means of establishing a budget for the police commission itself.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
So would we come up with the budget as a whole, or would you just decide what the budget?
You'd have to come up with it as a whole.
No, I mean, as it, right, so we'll get to discuss where the,
Yeah,
so,
I think we first have to figure out if they're gonna let us.
if they're gonna say no, you can't do it that way, you know, we don't need to waste any more time on it.
okay,
But if they're saying, well, you haven't made an ask and therefore we're not gonna spend any time on it, I'm taking that out away, at least trying to.
So could you restate the? You see, you removed your second, so we don't have to worry about the first,
Right.
right? Okay, just trying to keep us on procedural track. So could we restate the motion for me one more time?
What is Jen have?
Authorize chair to approach the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance to discuss ways and means to establish a police commission budget.
And that was moved and seconded.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Let's do a roll call.
Aye.
Ms. Kaye?
Aye.
Mr. Van Bassel?
all right.
Mr. Maselli?
Aye.
Ms. Miller Francesco?
Yes.
Ms. Manning?
Aye.
And the chair, aye. Okay, comments from the public? Do we have anyone in the audience? Yes, sir.
I'm Keith Morgana. I have a question, not question, but an issue with the bylaw regarding public comment. I know the First Amendment says that police officers on and off duty are not exempt from public comment in a public meeting. That's what the Constitution says. And I sent the police commission this information in a large packet a couple months ago, and I sent it to Chief Spira. And I think it goes over case law and the laws. So when you're talking about liability, there's actually more liability in the restriction of public comment. Like say I said something and I hurt Jeff's feelings, and he said, "Oh, I want for you out." And he cuffs up me and dragged me away. You know, it's assault because it's I'm allowed to speak publicly, actually about a specific officer on it. I don't have any problem with any officers, but if I did, the law allows me to speak in a public meeting. on them. And the pack that I sent you said specifically, you even said on-duty officers and even off-duty officers. It was very, very specific. So that's what the First Amendment says. And my other comment is, when I walked in, they had a couple of cars on display, which cars came out really nicely. And one of the comments that I have is just that the police officers are also first responders and not just police officers. So a lot of the expenses that went into these vehicles are for medical gear. In fact, the car you showed me was mostly medical gear along with radios. So I think it's money that was well spent, and it does help with, you know, public safety versus catching a kid smoking a joint kind of thing. You know, I mean, there's a lot of medical stuff in there that I think saves lives.
Thank you, sir.
And they look nice.
Anyone else in the audience? Yes.
Hi, Eleanor LaPlace. I'd just like to say, I am very disappointed that you defended all those motions. But as a taxpayer and as a voter, I am very confused here, because it seems to me, under the state statute, the police commission is responsible for having the police department be accountable and transparent. What I see in the town of Old Saybrook is now the police commission has nothing. You have nothing. The board of selectmen abandoned you. And nobody gives the police commission the respect. And they don't appreciate the power you have under the state. And that argument that you had about the bylaw, well, if you can't agree on the bylaw, it reverts back to the state. And that's why you need some consultants in here, because we have all kinds of people here. And as that lady over here said, you know, you get two lawyers together and forget it, because they'll never agree on anything. And that's why you do need representation, because this police commission is really, and it's not the police commission, it's the atmosphere that you have to work in. And when you say, oh, well, you just need to go on a retreat. Well, it's very difficult to go on a retreat. You know, and maybe a picture time you can do this better. But you need to find the areas that you agree on, and you need to make sure that the residents in this town are being treated in a transparent, and they're being, the police department is being held accountable. Because if you don't have that,
30 seconds you have left.
if you don't have that, then you're losing people. Because I am truly embarrassed, and I've been here since 1969. I have lived in Old Saybrook.
Anyone else in the in-person office? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say tonight that we went back, you guys went back a step to the old way the previous commission was handling stuff. You do have the charge to direct the chief on how you want the department run. That's what you have to do. You can't cower to the first selectman or to the town attorney or to the insurance. They're only trying to implement just so the chief gets his way. And the other thing is, by the way, did you do an exit review on the officer that's leaving?
No.
Why not?
Frankly,
It's supposed to be part of your duties.
we have never done exit interviews, and I think that's something that we should do. I agree with you. We should do that.
Well, why don't you start? You have the power to do it. The exit interview should be carried by you people and not this side of the fence.
Oh, I don't mind. I think it's fine for the chief to have an exit interview. But I think we should too.
Without him being there.
Right.
Well, why aren't you
You're in a
doing it?
conversation, Mr. Chair.
Okay. This can be the subject of an agenda item in the next meeting. Thank you for the suggestion. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I just want to say, I did see that cycle officer riding around last weekend. I saw my Kavanaugh Park, really happy to see that. I'd like to see more of it. As a cyclist in town, I think the police should be out there more on bikes to sort of see what's safe, what's not. There's a lot of roads that are kind of dangerous, especially in the summertime. I also want to express to the commission, I am disappointed in rescinding the bylaws based on what I think is sort of questionable legal opinions. But I'm more disappointed in the lack of constructive, feedback and partnership from the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, finding a solution to move us forward to get us better accountability and better oversight.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the virtual audience?
No hands raised.
No hands. All right, comments from the chief.
Well, I think I've talked a lot and I have a lot to say in executive session, so I'll yield my time.
Are there any police commissioners wishing to comment at this point?
Yes, I actually would. I would like to just address the fact that I am equally as disappointed in what happened here tonight as far as these bylaws are concerned. We worked very hard on this and we spent a lot of time on it. And I think that basically we had the first selectman stating things that made us feel that we would be legally responsible, as one of the speakers did indicate. So it puts us personally at risk. Whatever anybody really thinks, it puts us personally at risk. But the first selectman at their meeting said that they believe there's a path forward. And I don't know if you were actually the one who did that, who said that, but I know there were a couple of comments that there was a hope that there was a path forward in changing these bylaws down the road, working with Attorney Cronin. And I'm hoping that on the part of the selectmen, that those words are not empty rhetoric, that you actually, the selectmen will actually come away and offer us leadership and help to get these forward one by one. And luckily Colin Heffernan spoke wonderfully, saying we have 4 years to work through these things. So we have time to get to this. Everything doesn't have to be done right now, and we have to do it the right way. So those are my words.
I have a comment. It's my turn. These bylaws were crafted, but there was no input from either Joe or I on any of the bylaws. We were just presented them at a meeting and then asked to vote on them right away. So there's no crafting anywhere. I don't know where they came from, where was never offered input except for discussion right before we voted on it.
Actually, they were presented at a meeting in accordance with our bylaws for action at the next meeting 30 days later.
And they were changed, and then we didn't get a revision until the night of the meeting. I didn't get a revision. So I don't know who crafted them.
Did you guys all do any
It's
revisions?
just frustrating. It's frustrating because I had no input on anything. I come to a meeting, I get blindsided with 10 different things that somebody else obviously discussed already and crafted somewhere else. So I think I might change my party affiliation so that I can be part of the other police commission.
That's how Chuck and I felt. That's exactly how we felt.
Well,
I'd like to take
I'm
credit.
stepping out and saying it was wrong, and that's why I wasn't the chairman.
I would love.
Because I couldn't deal with that because it's wrong. It's wrong to have a separate police commission running over here and then us two being left out of all of the discussions. And I don't care how you look at it, that is not transparent. It is not transparent. It's opposite of being transparent.
Actually, Mr. Van Dassel, if you reflect on tonight, as like very often, we've adopted many of Mr. Maselli's suggestions.
I agree, but he's come up with them on the fly at the meeting because unfortunately we're not privy to what's going on. It's just very frustrating.
Any other commissioner discussion? All right. I invite a motion that we enter into executive session for the purposes of interviewing a candidate for the position of patrolman.
Second.
Invite me to invite the
Recess.
the chief and the captain.
Need anyone else?
All those in favor?
Aye. You're out of executive session. We are turning to item 21 on the agenda. Discussion and possible action to hire a patrolman to fill an existing vacancy. I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we hire Rachel O'Connell, the position of patrolman, to fill an existing vacancy pending the completion of any additional employment requirements and at a time determined by the chief that supports the department operations.
Second.
Any discussion? Thank you, Chief, for bringing them to us.
No problem, Mr.
All
Chairman,
in
if you just
favor,
want to,
say aye.
I know Jessica had to leave for a family emergency, but she
Yes. She also
endorsed the
expressed her
candidate.
support for the candidate. I entertain the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.